Great. So welcome. I'm Helen Graves, College of the Canyons instructional designer for now, and I am very happy to have you here with me. We're going to be talking about some course design shortcuts and things that you may not be aware of that you can do to help you with your course design. And I'm sure, I don't think anyone would disagree that there is a link between the design of your course and student success. What may not be so obvious to instructors is how your design methods can actually impact your success with your course. Today, we're going to talk about 5 often overlooked strategies that can help make your course design faster, easier, and even more effective. We're going to talk about what I call branding, using templates and various organizational strategies. Some of the ideas are aimed at making life easier for you, and others will increase the effectiveness of the course for your students, which will, of course, have a positive impact on your experience as well. So my plan is for you to leave with some tips, ideas, resources that can help build your instructional design toolbox. So the first strategy is what I call branding. And there is a terrific book called Brain Rules by John Medina. His thesis is that if you wanted to create an environment diametrically opposed to how the brain learns best, you'd create something very much like a classroom. And that's kind of a scary thought. He then presents 12 principles, brain rules, as he calls them, based on how we know the brain works. Brain rule number 10 is that human beings are very highly visual animals and that vision trumps all of our other senses. And brain rule number 4 is that people don't pay attention to boring things, even if they should. So when you put those 2 principles together, you've got a really great reason to brand your course. You don't need to become a marketing expert or anything like that, but even simple elements of branding is going to help grab your students' attention. It's going to create recognition and familiarity, and it's going to build an emotional connection, all of which will support learning. 3 very simple ways to create a course brand. The first is to choose a color theme. You don't want to go crazy and use color all over the place. I worked with one instructor who, on his homepage, every paragraph was a different color. And when I asked him his reason behind that, he said he wanted to make it lively. And so that's a great goal, to make your course engaging and lively, but having color willy-nilly isn't going to work. So when we're talking about choosing a color theme, it's more like, for your headings, perhaps might be the same color, or you might have, well, you'll see. I'm going to show you some examples and you'll see what I'm talking about. So when you choose a theme, color theme, you don't want to go crazy. You want to, maybe the general rule of thumb is 2 main colors and maybe a 3rd color for accents. The next thing you can do to help brand your course is to use consistent visuals for important or repeating course elements like your homepage or assignments, discussions, quizzes. And the 3rd thing is related to that, and that's to use graphics or icons to identify repeating elements within a page that are happening throughout the course. So maybe you have a little "don't forget" icon or tip icon, or whatever it is, resource, something like that. So you're using those same identifiable graphics all throughout the course to help students, kind of give them landmarks as to what's going on in the course. And so let me show you a few examples to get your creative juices flowing. I am going to be showing you some, well, it doesn't matter where they're from. Anyhow, so here is a course taught by @ONE, which is a professional development organization for our community colleges. And as you can see, they have branded the course with black and gray, and then they're using sort of a deep red as their accent color. And they're using those colors throughout. They are also using 10, 10, 10, just so you can understand the theme of it, is how to set up the first 10 minutes of your course, 10 days of your 10 hours of your course, and 10 days of your course. So what are you going to be doing with students in the first 10, second 10, third 10? So they're using the theme of time throughout, and many of their banners and things have this clock image on it. So that's just one way of using it. The overview page, let me show you where, there we go. Also uses the same kind of theme. You can see that the banner is very similar to the one on the homepage, but now they're giving you the context for the module. But they're using the same colors. And in fact, what I thought was kind of cool when they did it, each of the 10s, which represents 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days. In the next module, the middle 10 is the accent color. And then in the final model, the third 10 is the accent color. Not a big deal. Some students may not even notice it, but it kind of makes it fun and interesting, and does give, creates communication for students that are noticing those kinds of things. So do I want to show you? Oh, I know. I wanted to show you one other thing in this course. They are using, again, a banner on their discussions with the same theme, but it's slightly different than the homepage. And I actually would have embedded it bigger. It looks a little funny having it so tiny, but you get the idea. Same color theme, same clock image, but all of the discussions will have this exact same banner so that when a student is clicking through the modules, it's immediately identifiable that this is a discussion. And it would be from the context and the prompt and all that too, but it's just kind of fun for visual interest to give it that banner on it. Here is another example, and this one breaks my little suggested rule of 2 colors because there are 4 weeks in the course. And so each week used a different color from the main graphic that was the theme of the course. So all of the accents in week 1 are in the green, and the accents in week 2 are in the purple. But again, they follow some of the same principles of having a banner for discussions and a slightly different banner for assignments, etc. Do I want to show you that? Yeah, actually, I want to show you one of the content pages because I think they did something kind of fun on it. Hopefully, I'm not making you dizzy with that. So here we've got the overview page, and if Canvas would, there we go, render. So on the little icon, the green is on top. Next week, the purple will be on top. So it just kind of gives a visual cue. And then throughout the content pages, they have these, excuse me, horizontal rules at the top and the bottom, and it's in that week's color. So again, just kind of a thematic visual cue to students, and the accent color also is green. If there's a text box in one of the other modules, it'll be that module's color. You don't have to get that fancy. I'm not trying to make you feel like, oh my Lord, now I have to spend all this time doing that. I'm just giving you some ideas so you can start thinking, oh, here's what I'd like to do with that. Do I want to? Yes, I also want to show, do I? No, I'm not going to show you. Yeah. So we're going to go back here. And Canva.com, not to be confused with Canvas, is a really great graphic design platform online. There is a free version that will definitely get you started. They do have a paid version as well with more bells and whistles, but I'm not a graphic designer, though I've tried to teach myself a little bit about it, but it's a great way. It has royalty or Creative Commons licensed images and graphics and things. So it's a great place to go and begin playing around with creating your banners or your little icons or whatever you want to do. And then you can download those images as a JPEG and pop it right into your Canvas course. Canva does have a number of tutorials to teach you not only how to use Canva, but also graphic design tutorials. So it's just a way to get started if branding is something you're interested in. So the next idea I'm going to share with you is to be consistent and use templates. It's a great strategy. I have noticed, however, that some faculty consider the word template to be a four-letter word. And the concern, I think, is worried about making cookie cutter courses or not having flexibility with their course design. I think of templates quite differently. I see them as a valuable time saver. I mean, why reinvent the wheel when you don't need to? So you want to save your creativity and energy for the things that really make a difference, like presenting your content, building your assessments, crafting your student feedback. For things like your homepage or your orientation module, or even the layout of your assignments and discussions and content pages within a course. The smart way to do it is to create it once and then duplicate that assignment with the sections that you've got and then edit as appropriate for whatever it is. So you're kind of templatizing within your course each of the elements of the course so you don't have to recreate it from scratch every time. Another really important benefit of the idea of templates is the student experience. Both research and anecdotal findings show that a major complaint for students in online courses is the lack of consistency. Every instructor sets their course up differently. I've even seen a single instructor who set up their own courses all very differently. Fortunately, students no longer have to contend with taking classes in a multiplicity of course management systems, Blackboard, Moodle, Desire to Learn, Angel, etc. But even within Canvas, the lack of consistency can still be quite evident. The value of consistency is that it can reduce cognitive load. Students are less likely to be confused or have to go on a hunting expedition in order to find the content or the tasks that they need in order to complete the course. So if your modules, your content pages, your assignments, each have a consistent structure or layout to them, students know what to expect. And they know how to dive right into the material without floundering around trying to figure out what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to find it. It's familiar and comfortable. And your branding is going to contribute to consistency as well. So here's a couple of ideas of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you a discussion template, and this actually is available in the Commons, and I'll tell you how to find it in a moment. But you can see I've got sections. What's the purpose or goal? What is the actual prompt, submission and grading, and then resources, which are usually, for me, Canvas guides for how students can do a particular thing related to what it is. So all of my discussions have these same sections. So I create my template. I would probably have a really nice banner up here. I might even have a little icon for prompt or for goal. So all of the discussions would look very similar. And then I would just be editing the actual prompts and the rest of it, I don't really need to edit. That's the beauty of the template. All I have to do once I've created it is edit my prompt content, but the replies to peers, the submission and grading, that information is going to remain the same for all of the discussions. And here is an assignment example. Same idea. It's got a banner that's always going to be consistent for the assignment. And then it has the various sections, the sort of introductory content, tips, due date, grading, and Canvas guides. Your template may look totally different. I'm not saying it has to look like this, just giving you some ideas for what you could put in a template that would then carry across all of the assignments or all of the discussions or quizzes or whatever it is, so that you aren't having to start from scratch every time. If you are interested in grabbing this template from the Commons, if you go to the Commons, which if you're not familiar, it's always over here in the global navigation, and you'll click it. And if you do a search for, I will put this in chat so you can just copy and paste it, but you'll search for example discussion template. And if you put my name in there, that will bring it up. But I have a lot of stuff I put in the Commons for the CVC, so it may bring up a bunch of stuff. So don't just put in my name, because you may have to wade through a bunch of things. Anyhow, that's there for you if you're interested. And I forgot to mention, I am going to have hopefully lots of time at the end for questions. So if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat if you want to remember, if you're afraid you might forget it. And then we'll also have time to unmute and talk about anything you want to, well, not anything you want to talk about, but anything you want to talk about related to the course design shortcuts. All right, so consistency. Next thing I want to talk about is getting organized, being efficient. And one of the ways to do that is to get organized with your files area. And I have seen a number, hundreds probably, of courses. And the files area is often, dare I say it, the online equivalent of the kitchen junk drawer. Most every course I've been in looks something like this. Now, it may be that your files don't look like this, but what is often the case is there is, and you can see it's a lot of stuff because it's taking a while to load. There's multiples of the same thing, different versions from different semesters, or you forgot you'd already uploaded it, so you upload it again. There's all kinds of stuff that's maybe from past semesters, and it just goes on and on and on. And it's very difficult to find anything or to know what is still being used and what is detritus. So a great way to deal with that is to come up with a structure of organization for your files. And you can do that at the beginning, which is, of course, the easiest thing to do. You can also do it now. This is one example where you have the ability in Canvas to set up folders. Unfortunately, only in the files area. I'm begging them to do it in Pages as well, because it would be great. But for now, at least we've got it in files. So you might have different categories. This is just one way of doing it. I've also done it by module. So I have all my module 1 documents and images in a folder, and then all my module 2 documents and images in a folder, so that when I'm looking for things, or when I'm reorganizing or doing spring cleaning and getting rid of one document and putting in a new one, I know exactly where to find it. Images and even pages, it's really nice if you, in terms of organization, come up with a naming convention. That also makes it really easy to find. For example, in Pages, I have my syllabus content on different pages rather than one long scrolling thing. But I start each page name with syllabus, course description, syllabus, grading policies, syllabus, so that they're grouped together in the Pages area. That's the sort of thing that a naming convention can help with, in addition to the folders. Another little trick with the naming convention of images, if you name it what it actually is, so maybe it's module 1, I'm not even thinking of an image right now, but if you're just using descriptive title for it, it can help when it comes to time to doing your alt text, rather than having some cryptic title that's only known to you. Actually name it with understandable words, and that can help when it comes time to doing the alt text. If I didn't say that in a way that makes sense, let me know when we get to questions. One thing you may or may not have noticed, uploaded media is a default folder that Canvas adds if you aren't putting things into other folders. So sometimes when you upload something, it may end up, if you don't designate which folder you want it to go to, it may very well end up in this default uploaded media. So you can always just open it, see what's in there, and then put it in the appropriate folder. Okay, so that's that on organizing your files. And then the next thing is links. Have you got links in your course? Of course you do. Maybe you've got a link to a Canvas guide like we showed on the templates, or maybe you're linking students from a content page to a discussion or a web resource or something, but you've got links. And unbeknownst to many people, the images on a Canvas page actually don't live on the page itself. It's a link within the HTML code of the page that is routing back to the image file that lives in your course files area. And if that link to the image isn't embedded properly, they'll break the next time you import your content into the next term shell. Broken links are always a bummer. But the good news is you don't have to go through every page in your course, checking every link every semester to make sure they work, because Canvas has provided us with a little tool that will do that for you. And I'm going to show you an example of it. It's called the Link Validator. And to find it, you're going to go to Settings, and it's in every course by default. So if you click on Settings, and then over here on the right-hand set of options, the very bottom one is called Validate Links. And when you click it, it takes you to this page. I've already done the validation one time through. If you hadn't ever validated links, the little blue button is not going to say restart. It's just going to say start link validation. You click it, and it literally looks through every single link in your course shell and gives you a report on whether any of them are potentially broken or not. It does take a while. So what I generally do is start the validator button, and then I go off and do something else. And then I come back in 5 or 10 minutes. And by then, usually I have my readout. It's not entirely intuitive what everything means. So I've kind of learned through trial and error. So I want to share with you a couple of the most common results that you may get. One of them is non-existent content referenced in the course. And the way I do it, there we go, is it's telling me on this page called Section C, I have a link called Review the Explanation of Section C, and that appears to be broken. So if I go to the page, and I like to open it in a new tab so I don't lose where I am in the course validator. So I'm going to go to the page, and I'm going to look for the link that says Review the Explanation of Section C. And I'm not seeing it, so I'm thinking it's probably in one of the questions. I'm not going to take you through that right now, so let me find another one that says non-existent. Okay, don't have it here. Helen, you knucklehead. I'll find it on a different one. But let's now look. External link was unreachable. That's another very common one. And what it generally means is this link, N3YWBW, is actually going outside of the Canvas course. And Canvas, being a secure environment, doesn't really like that. So you often get that message automatically when it's going to an external website. Doesn't mean it's actually broken, but you do want to check it just to make sure. So we're looking for N3Y. Hopefully it'll be here and I won't look like an absolute fool again. No, Helen, you look like an absolute fool again. Okay, let me find a different one. External. Okay, we'll do this one. Online Canvas student orientation. Let's see if we can find that. Online Canvas student orientation. It's taking them outside the course. When I click it, I can see as soon as it resolves itself. And it's taking a while, which usually indicates, okay, So the reason this is being broken is it's actually a password protected external website. So if your students didn't have access to this particular website, they would be receiving a broken link error when they try to click on it. So sometimes when you get these results, they are false positives, but it's always a good idea to double check just to make sure it isn't something like password protected, or it isn't a website that you were using who's changed their page names or something. And so the old link that you had actually is broken and you need to find the new link. I'm going to show you one other example because it has something that happens a lot with images. Okay. Links to other courses may not be accessible to the students in this course. When I mentioned that your images are actually links to the JPEG or PNG file that is living in your files area, and if it's not embedded properly, it breaks because the image itself is still in the old course shell. It doesn't get brought over, only the link gets brought over with the import process. So that's often what's going on when you get the message links to other courses. You will see the image because you're in both the current course shell and the previous one where the image is living. But your students are only enrolled in the current course shell. So they're not going to see the image. So it's really good that the link validator tells you this is what's going on. And all you have to do is go to the proper page in this course shell and then import the image into this course shell so that then the link will no longer be broken. Let me think if there's one other one. Okay, so here's one I think will be the non-existent that I mentioned. If I go to the page and I look for @ONE standards, there was apparently a file that was called @ONE standards, which was originally linked, but it's since been deleted. So now the link is broken. So it's just those kinds of little things that you don't have to check manually. Canvas will do it for you, but it's a great organizational thing. Before you publish your course each term, run the link validator to find all those links so you don't get the late night emails from students saying, I can't access whatever because the link's broken. All right. The next thing I like to talk about, one of my favorites, is what I call hidden modules. And that's a module that is unpublished, so you can see it in the course. And it can have things like notes and other things related to the course, but it's not stuff you want students to have access to. So for example, it might be a list of the things you want to fix for next term, or it might be your branding colors, you know, the 6-digit hexadecimal code for your branding colors, or the font that you chose to use for your branding. You might even have frequently used feedback comments, a list of those. And let me show you an example. Oh, there we go. I have too many things open. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So here's an example that I have this isn't actually my teaching shell, but I just had this so I could show you. I've got in it the distance ed person's resource because I always want to be able to quickly and easily get to that resource. So I've just got it in my unpublished module. I have notes on what I need to remember to do in that first week every term. My branding stuff, my to-do list, and then frequently used feedback comments. You may have other things in yours, but it's a really nice way of keeping the stuff that's related to this particular course in this particular course. And when you import the content into the next term shell, this unpublished module will come along right with it. So you always have it available to you, but students are never seeing it. You also might use it for department or college level types of things. So maybe there's a hidden module with department information that everybody has in their course shells so that everybody's got access to the same kinds of things. Okay, I have done a lot of talking. I want to check in with you. What sounded interesting that maybe you'd like to try, and what questions do you have about the things we talked about? And I'm going to take a sip of water.
Hi.
Hi.
Can we explore Canva a little bit? Like, how do you get access to it? And
Sure. Let me get back here. If you go to canva.com, and let me make this bigger. It's going to look like this. I actually have an account, so it logged me directly into my account, but you would be able to register for it. And then as an example, they've got all kinds of templates that you can use that are already pre-built in specific sizes. So if you want a presentation size, like for a, what do we call them? PowerPoint or some, it's the right size already. Or if you want, you know, whatever, you can also do custom sizes. But when you choose a specific template, let me say, what's a good one? Let's go with presentation. So when I choose that, it will then give me a bunch of pre-populated templates that I can then choose one. And if I use it, I can then customize it to fit what I want. I can change the font, I can change the colors, I can leave it and just add in my own content. So I can make it my own and then download whatever it is and use it in the way I want to use it. Carrie, what questions come up for you as we're looking at all this? And I know there's all kinds of questions, I'm sure, but
I'm just trying to make it look more like you said, visual was like kind of like one of the first things, and just trying to make it more like attractive, like intriguing, like kind of grab them in at the very beginning. Right. So yeah, I can't graphic designer or anything like that. So it's just like, yeah. So like you're talking about, why reinvent the wheel when there's stuff already offered to you. So.
And let me show you, if I can find it. I've got a little Helen Stuff folder. And so I have a banner size that I like. So I have a folder in my stuff that already had, and then I can just create different banners and then download the ones I want. I can change the colors. So let's say I didn't want this gold color, although you may have noticed this is the College of the Canyon colors, but I can come up here and change the color to something that's preset, or if I know the 6-digit code of a specific color, I can actually enter that in, or I can use this to find a color I like and change it that way. So you've really got a lot of versatility, and the same with fonts. I have this, I can come up here to the font drop down and I can choose all kinds of pre-populated. You also, and I don't know if you can do this with the free, so I apologize, but I know in the paid account that I have, I can upload a particular font if it's not already in the library. So I can be very particular about what I'm able to use, but they have a ton of stuff in there that you can use quite easily. So I can change it to whatever I want to change it to and play around and, you know, just see.
What looks good. Okay.
What looks good, what I like, exactly. So it's pretty easy to use. I will tell you, it can be a rabbit hole because you start playing around and then you realize, oh my goodness, it's 2 hours later and I'm still playing with my banners, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it looks like it is. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. What other questions do people have?
I was just going to add real quick about a thing that I really like about Canva is, sorry, I'm lower my hand. It's really weird. It just like leaves it up there. Is if you notice on the top of each of her banners, there's little icons. One of them is a duplicate button. So let's say once you have a thing that you like, and you would scroll on the left-hand side is all of your templates, right? So you would choose a template that you kind of like, and then you can play around with the color. And once you get an idea of it, so let's say you created your home banner, you can duplicate it, then just quickly make small changes, call it, module 1, duplicate that, make changes from that one, introduce yourself, duplicate that, make changes to that. So that way it's really easy to keep that consistent theme.
Right.
And to download it, it's literally as easy in the right top corner. You just click on that download button and it'll you can choose which of the ones to download. You can choose the format. So if you're trying to download a PDF, or you can choose to make it a picture file or whatever. So it gives you all those different options, but it's literally that easy where you kind of choose the size that you're thinking of. Then you make those changes, just duplicate, and then you click download. It'll download it and you can upload it to Canvas.
Yeah. One tip, you may not remember it, but you'll learn it the hard way if you don't. Sometimes by default, it will download as a PDF. You don't want your images to be PDFs because you can't use them as an image in your course. It will think it's an actual PDF file and it won't display the way the image would. So you have to make sure you're choosing, I go with PNG because then I have the option of a transparent background. I don't need that for a banner because you want that. But if I'm doing a little icon or something, I want to have the rest of it transparent. So it's just the icon that I can then put on the page exactly where I want it to be. And to show you what Chloe was starting about, I just created the discussion banner and then I copied it and simply changed the writing in each of the things. So I had the same thing duplicable and made it very quick and easy to do it. And Carol, you've got your hand up. Is it about Canva or should I go somewhere else?
It's about Canva. I was just wondering if you know or could share the size that you prefer for your banners.
What I do, let me look. This one looks to be, and it's in pixels, 2480 by 520. Sometimes I like it a little thinner because sometimes I've found I like my banners to go all the way across the Canvas page. And if you have it the height too big, it ends up taking up half your homepage in order for it to go all the way across. So you may want to play around with it and find a size that really works better. Maybe it's a little thinner than it is. Hopefully that made sense, Carol.
Yes, yeah, I did. Thank you.
And when you look in the templates, and I see we have another hand up, but when you look in the templates, you will find, what's the one I started? Come here. Oh. What did I think there is one that is banner size. I can't remember what it's called, but when you go to the templates, you'll see one that is long and thin, and that can be a starting point. And then you can adjust the height of it if you want it to be less tall.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not speaking very clearly right now. So
No,
please.
you are. It made perfect sense.
Okay, good. All right, Andrelena. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, but
Yes, Andrelena. So I love Canva and I love designing my Canvas pages and everything.
Yeah.
But I just have a question, like when we're doing all of this, do we need to worry about being 508 compliant? Or is it just because it's decoration, then we don't need to worry? If you could just clarify that point.
yes, absolutely. I'm an accessibility zealot, so I would say you always need to think about accessibility. What you would want to think about in terms of these images is it something germane to the content where it would need alternative text, or is it really just decorative so that it's not applicable? If it were a banner, I would probably recommend that your alt text say whatever text is in the banner. It doesn't need to say a banner with blue and gold horizontal lines and blue text. You just put the alt text, in this case would simply say assignment, quiz, discussion. A banner, a case could be made that it's really decorative. A student is not going to not do well on the assignment if they don't know that that banner is there. So you could tag it as decorative. hopefully that makes sense to you. Accessibility is always dependent on the context in which it's being used.
Yes. Mhm.
And so, yeah, absolutely. So you just kind of want to think about, what am I doing with this image in my course? And then you'll have a sense of whether it needs alt text or not. Any other questions? Yes, Chloe, go ahead. You're muted.
Hi, Helen. Do you have a suggestion for when you're embedding a picture into your Canvas page? You know how you said you like it to go all the way across? I'm always, a lot of times I'll worry that I've made the image too large,
Yes.
too small. Is there a way that you can set it so that it auto adjusts in Canvas, or do you pretty much just have to choose a pixel amount and go with it?
You do not. I believe Canvas has adapted their images so they are all responsive. But what I like to do with banners, and I'm looking to find one where I'm not going to mess up an actual course. So give me 1 second to make sure I'm in. No, I don't want to be there. Okay, I can be in this one. But I don't know if I have a banner. Let's see if I can find a banner. So if I wanted to put a banner in here, if I've got one, and I'm using the new rich content editor, so it may look a little different than what you are used to, but that's okay. Come on. Come on. Okay. All right, here's a banner. So I'm going to embed the banner. And then, and this takes a little code, so I apologize. It's the only way I know how to, well, actually, let me check it first. So if I save the page, we've got the banner there. And then if I move the, yeah, okay, so it's not responsive yet. But for those of you that are feeling adventurous, and I am going to be doing a webinar in a couple of weeks, I think, on basics for HTML so that you are not scared of it. Do you want me to show you right now, Chloe?
If it's okay with everybody else, yeah.
It's not hard. You just have to, and well, it won't matter if you weren't in the code before, but Canvas has now made this an actual code editor. Hallelujah. So it's much easier to figure out where you are. All right. So here's a little trick. I put my cursor next to wherever I want to work. And then, oh, why is it not letting me do this? Okay, there we go. So I've got a bunch of horizontal lines there so that when I go into the code, I can quickly see, okay, that's where above where my banner is. So this must be my banner. And in fact, it is, because I can see it says home banner. I'm going to want to take out the PNG because the file type is never appropriate for alt text. And here's how you make it responsive. In the area where the alt text is, I'm going to add a code, and let's see if I remember it, width, :space, 100%. No, they're doing it different here. Width equals. Let me check to make sure it's right, and then I'll show you what I did. So now we've got the banner, and if I move it, now it's responsive. So if you make the width of it 95%, 100, if you make it a percentage, whatever that percentage is, it will be responsive as the page moves. I know I went over that quickly, and for some of you that was like, I don't even know what, your eyes are twirling in your head. But I can tell you more when we do the HTML design one, because I'll be going over more about how you look at code and how you add things, but you'll put in 100%, if that makes sense, Chloe.
So you went into HTML editor.
Yep.
And then you found the image.
I found the image. And in this case, where did it go? Okay, here's my image where there's already commands, essentially alt text, etc. I added in width equals
100%.
quotation marks. That's part of the syntax.
And you do
100.
a space, after.
In between each command. So alt text is one command. So then there's a space. Then there's the
Okay.
next command, which is width. And then there's a space. Then there's the next. So you're going to want to make sure there's a space before your width and after your width.
Okay,
And in fact, I will put this in chat so you can copy this.
thank you. This is new, right? The color coding on the,
Yes, it's brand new. They made it an actual HTML editor, which is so cool because
because before it was a lot more
it
difficult.
was just raw code, and you can still go to the raw code. For those of you
Yes.
who've never looked at you, this is what it used to look like. And so for those of you who think this is, whoops, this is bad, it's so much better than it was.
Yes. Okay, that's cool. Thank you, Helen.
You're very welcome. Okay, I'm gonna show you one other fancy thing. How many of you are aware of the page history? Well, you don't have to raise your hand, but what's nice about it is, so for example, I don't want that banner there, but I don't want to have to go in and figure out how to delete it. I can go back to an earlier version. Ah, there's the one without the banner. I'm going to restore that version. Voila, the page is back the way I had it originally. No muss, no fuss. So when you're playing around with things, that can be really a good time saver. If you've, like me, totally messed up a page with something you were experimenting on, tabs or columns or something like that, you can easily go back to where you had it before. It's not available on discussions, quizzes, or assignments. So if you're going to play around with one of those, make a copy of it and play around with your copy. But on pages, you have the restore previous version. Okay.
And how do you access that again?
You go into the three little dots. When you're on a page, if you click the three little dots, one of the options says view page history, and it will show you the 25 most recent versions of that page. And then you may have to look through them to, depending on what changes you made. But when you find the one you want, you just click restore this version and it makes it the one. It's kind of cool. Okay, what other questions do you have? Yes, Colette, and don't worry about raising your hand. Just go right ahead and chime in.
All right. Wasn't there a quick tip on how I do that horizontal line? Is that just an HTML code too that I have to type in?
Okay, so depends on the line. If you're talking about the colored ones, yes, it's code. But
Okay.
Canvas, bless their little hearts, has now added, let's go here, in the new rich content editor, and I am a fan of it. I know some of you have not even, you're in denial. It's coming, it's here to stay, and it actually has some great aspects to it. One of them is this. If I go up to the insert option, I have a horizontal rule right built in there. I don't have to go into the code at all. So if you're okay with just the standard light gray thin, you can just plop it right in. If you want color, here's a tip. Well, come to the design one because I'm going to talk about that. But another tip would be, I'll do my little trick of extra spaces. I'll go in the code to find it. Where did you go? There we go. Here's my horizontal rule. Once you know the code, you can actually add color to it. So it wouldn't be the gray, it would be whatever color you want it to be. But you can at least get started with the gray lines very, very simply now. Did that answer what you were looking for, Colette?
Yes, I did. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. What other questions?
I just wanted to mention that we are going to be turning on the new rich content editor in the after the spring semester. We'll be turning it on campus wide, and I know Helen got some great workshops planned to lead us along the way. But if any of us wanted to experiment with it now, we could any of us could turn on that setting into in our course.
Yeah.
Just be a course by course setting feature that we could enable.
Yeah. So if you go into settings on any of your course shells and then go to the feature options tab, which you may or may not have ever visited, right here, it says RCE enhancements. And as you can see, I've got it turned on in this course shell. So you can turn it on in maybe one of your development shells and start playing around with it. Yes, it's kind of like going from a PC to a Mac in that it's very different. All of the functionality is still there, but things are in different places. And there's actually new functionality in some cases. So you have the ability to do more than you could before, but it's really good. So it's worth spending a little time to get used to it. And as Chloe said, pretty soon it's going to be the default and Canvas won't even have the old one anymore and you'll have to swap over.
So if we turn that on in one of our current courses, will that mess up anything or?
I wouldn't turn it on in a teaching course for the reason that it will then be the default for everybody. So if students are editing a discussion post or something like that, they're going to have the new rich content editor instead of the old one. So I would just do it for now in your development shells until the college has officially gone to the new one.
Got it.
Or alternatively, and maybe Chloe would have something different. If you're going to turn it on in a teaching shell, make sure you give students fair warning and tutorials before you do it. So they're not left looking at this thing going, oh my Lord, what happened? I don't know what's going on. That would be my suggestion.
That's a really good point, Helen.
I'll leave a comment for the group, something that I discovered because I'm using the studio now, those recordings.
Yeah.
I do have to repopulate it each time. So from one shell to the next. So for like the link validation thing, sort of like that messed up apparently. I didn't think it would because it's in Studio. I didn't think it was attached to a particular course. So when I created a page that was like exam one information, right, for one of the classes, and I imported all my like review videos in there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to copy this page over, and I assumed that the links to Studio would work, but it didn't. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just like referring to another page. Apparently with Studio, I'm going to have to redo it in each class.
I haven't used Studio much, so maybe Chloe or Carol, you know more about it, but my understanding was it may depend on how you're embedding that video onto the page. Are you using the Studio tool on the page as the embed?
Yeah, I go ahead and I've been putting in all the videos, like I'll have maybe 4 videos, like really embedded in. That's how I was doing
that's
it.
good. You want them on the page. It's just what I was wondering is, are you copying a URL and using that, or are you using the embed tool?
I'm using that thing, the V shape, right, Chloe? You showed us.
Right,
Use the V shape, go down to Studio, embed it. Yeah. And I assumed it would copy over because it's not a page. And then someone's like, "It's not working." I'm like, "It's not working." And I guess what I had done. Oh
no, go ahead.
I guess with my previous lecture notes, I went ahead and did it by hand in every single course shell because I already had those pages. But since this was a new page I was creating for the exam review, I thought I could just copy it over from class to class. And then once I kind of deleted those things, I deleted all those sort of video links and redid it through Studio, import, embed, then it worked for the students. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to do this by hand.
Yeah.
That's really good to know, Colette. I wasn't aware of that being an issue, but it's good to know. We need to experiment more with that and make sure we're letting people know about it before the start of the next term, especially if they're using it.
Colette has come across a couple of weird things with Studio that we're trying to figure out. So she's testing it out for us.
That's great. Yeah. And there are, with any new tool, there's generally going to be little anomalies and glitches while they're ironing it out. And I've also noticed with Canvas, sometimes they'll introduce something new and it will have unintended consequences on some other aspect of Canvas. So this may, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Studio, but it's possible it's something they are working on, not an actual forever kind of issue. Anything else we want to talk about today? We got about 3 minutes left.
Well, I just had a question for Carol, and I guess also for Helen and Chloe. Last week, Carol, I had asked you if those features were specific to our college, like embedding within a page. Did you ever find any information about that?
I wasn't able to figure that out, and I actually meant to ask Chloe, but I forgot. Chloe, she's asking about an AQ course that has embedded within Pages. There's like activities embedded, and like students can answer questions directly within the page. Do we have that available at COC, or is that something in Canvas that we don't have access to? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
You mean make it a wiki page so students can add their own content?
If I can share my screen, I can show you an example really quickly.
Yeah, I think you have the ability to share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, so it is this one.
The questions are embedded in a page with the learning material. So if that learning material is a video, maybe it's a lecture you recorded, maybe it's PowerPoint slides, or even just reading an article.
So you can see right here below the videos that she had, she actually has some questions that students can complete right there on the page. So my question was just, I was wondering if that's specific to only certain institutions, or if there is a way that we can do that as well through coding or anyway, because it's such a really cool feature to have.
Yeah. My guess would be it's something their Canvas admin and tech department added to their instance. It's not something that you can do by default in Canvas.
Okay.
But I don't know, you know, with Chloe and Joy and talk to Chad or something. I don't know how big of a thing it is, but it's not a native thing in Canvas currently. It is in Studio. You can embed, you know, add little knowledge checks right into the video, but not on a page.
Okay.
Was it like an embedded web page into a Canvas page? Was that what it was, Helen?
It looked actually like it was in the code of the page. It didn't look like it was, you know, say a Google form.
It didn't look like an iframe, right?
It didn't look like it to me. Can you share the page again, Andrelena?
Oh, sure.
I think it was just right actually in the CSS. We're not seeing the page if you're.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Oh, that's okay. I just.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an iframe. Are you, Chloe?
No, that looks almost more like how I might see a publisher. I don't know what that is.
Right. Yeah, I think it's something they did special in their CSS.
Yeah, some external tool or something.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And I have seen it in some online textbooks and stuff where they'll have the knowledge check built right in, but Canvas doesn't have that capability.
If there's a specific tool that you're looking for that you would like to see in our Canvas instance, the person to contact is Chad Estrella.
Okay.
He's our Canvas admin, and he has access to all the behind the scenes stuff. So he would be able to at least let you know yes or no, or let you know if that's something that he needs more information or whatever. He'd be the person to contact.
He's lovely and very helpful and responsive. Well, I want to thank you for spending an hour with us today. I've enjoyed it. I hope you got a little bit of good information for you, and I'll look forward to maybe seeing you next week. I don't remember. I think my topic is engaging instructional videos. So we'll have some fun with that. Okay. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.